Crate will not survive this. A mere Sith child will not undo my return. Yes, Lord Ragnos, but I inquire, what use is he if we are going to discard him at the end? Crate will serve his purpose. The multiverse is unstable, the omniverse even more so. We may be gods among men in this reality, but beyond the veil lies beings beyond our comprehension, beings unconcerned with the mortal affairs of kings, gods, and various other entities, beings of such unimaginable power they cannot be put into words. Yes, my master. Tenebrae vanished back into the netherworld of the Force, his mind keenly aware of the plan. Marco Ragnos cowered in his tomb, melding back into his sarcophagus. Soon Crate would come. The foolish Sith Ari believed that he was on top of things, that he was the master manipulator, the ultimate orchestrator, the king in a chess game, when in all actuality he was the pawn. Marco Ragnos, Dark Lord of the Sith, usher in of the golden age of the Sith, would ensure the Sith legacy would never die out. The dark side of the Force deserves to live with its most powerful practitioner. Deep in the old tombs of the ancient masters, a group of powerful Sith entities gathered. Darth Krayt, the Sith Ari, stood tall and imposing, flanked by the spirits of Dark Lord Marco Ragnos. His masters had become increasingly distant, and the Dark Underlord, an ancient abstract entity that had been summoned from the very void of space. Floating nearby was the abstract entity known as Selma Core, a wellspring of dark side energy, its form constantly shifting, mutating, and twisting. And beside them all was the crimson apparition of Karnas Mur, his face twisted into his sneer as his talisman climbed up Crate, its claws embedding itself and piercing into his Tuscan flesh. Their destination was the tomb of Tulak Horde, one of the most renowned Sith Lords in history and battlefield tacticians. Legend had it that he single-handedly broke 2 Jedi sieges and slaughtered thousands of Jedi. As they entered the tomb, the air grew thick with a palpable sense of power from an era long past. The walls were adorned with ancient runic symbols, and the floor was strewn in dust and cobwebs. "Ah, Tulak Horde," he said, his voice echoing through the tomb. "Renowned for his foresight and prowess in combat. If only he had foresawn his death and prepared accordingly." The spirits of Marco Ragnos and the Dark Underlord nodded in agreement at the Sith Ari, while Karnas Mur remained silent, his eyes darting around the room, as if his mind was overwhelmed in some other machination. "And what of the battle with Nihilus?" asked the abstract entity Selma Core, its voice like a whisper in the wind. The group fell silent, each consumed by their own thoughts. Finally, Crate spoke up. "I have foreseen the outcome of this battle. Nihilus will prevail." Karnas Mur scoffed. "You underestimate the power of the dark side. You underestimate yourself. Perhaps more training is in order. Perhaps you are not fit to wear the robes of the Sith Ari." "But even the dark side has its limits, Mur," said the spirit of Ragnos. "The Jedi are a formidable foe, one that is few between during Nihilus's purge. Nihilus should not be underestimated." The abstract entity Selma Core floated closer to the group, his form pulsating with a dark side nexus. "And what of Nihilus himself?" "He is a threat, to be sure," Crate said, "but he is not invincible. Every Dark Lord has a blind spot, a fatal spot. For Nihilus, that emotion is fear. We must lead him to believe that all life has been extinguished, that his hunger has finally been satiated, and then, in one final momentary lapse of joy, we will strike." Suddenly, a voice echoed through the tomb. "Who dares disturb my rest?" The group turned to see the spirit of Tulak Horde floating before him, his eyes glowing with an otherworldly white. "We seek your wisdom, O great Tulak Horde, ruler of the Sith," said Crate, bowing respectfully to his ancient predecessor. Tulak Horde regarded the group for a moment before speaking. "The battle with Nihilus will be a strength of willpower and strength in the Force," he said, "but the Sith will endure. We are not military combatants as we once were in my era. The true power of the Sith lies in their ability to endure. The group nodded in understanding, absorbing the spirit's words. And what of our own power? Asked Carnasmer. Will it be enough to overthrow Nihilus and his empire? Tulak Hord regarded the ancient Sith with a look of disdain. Your power is impressive, Mer, but it is nothing without the will to use it. You will be instrumental in the battle to come, but power without control is meaningless. The group fell silent once more, each consumed in their own thoughts. Finally, Crate spoke. Thank you for your wisdom, Tulak Hord, he said. We will remember your words. As the group made their way out of the tomb of Tulak Hord, Darth Krayt received a transmission from his leading general and tactical commander, Tarkin. A large quantity of ships were emerging from hyperspace and heading towards a location. Krayt turned to his companions. Prepare yourselves, he said. We must ready our troops for the upcoming battle. Tarkin's transmission beeped in again, this time with a detailed report of the incoming ships. Krayt listened intently, taking note of the number and type of vessels. We will need to prepare our Sith troopers and ground forces, as well as ready our ships for the aerial assaults, he said to his companions. This will not be an easy battle, but we must fight against Nihilus, uprule his tyranny. Tulak Hord nodded in agreement. The battle has come to you, to Coliban. But fear not, the sorcery that I possess can drain worlds. I will use the same sorcery to strip Nihilus of his army. Let us see how powerful a god is when all his servants has been tucked into death. With those words, the spirit of Tulak Hord disappeared into his tomb, leaving the group to prepare for the coming battle. Carnasmer's talisman scuttled on the ground like a spider, its spirit following closely behind. The ancient Sith Lord turned to Krayt, a wicked smile spreading across his face. My Lakuls are prepared for the battle. We will tear through the enemy ranks and strike fear into their hearts. Krayt nodded, impressed by Mer's confidence. Your role in this battle will be crucial, he said. But remember, we must work together as a union, the true Dark Lords of the Sith. As Krayt prepared for the upcoming battle, he felt a surge of dark side energy within him. He closed his eyes and let the power of the dark side gorge into him. In the midst of his meditation, he sensed the presence of two other ancient lords, Marco Ragnos and the Dark Underlord. The spirits appeared before him, shimmering in the glint of Coruscant's sun. Krayt bowed his head respectfully. My lords, I am honoured by your presence. Ragnos and the Underlord regarded him sternly. You have come a long way, Sith Ali, Ragnos said, but there is still much work to be done. Not liberating Nihilus from his position of power is only one part of our eventual scheme. The Underlord nodded in agreement. Your training has been difficult, but it has been necessary. There will be no second chances with Nihilus. Krayt felt a pang of anxiety in his chest. He knew that the Dark Underlord was referring to the coming battle. The stakes were high, the fate of the Sith hung in balance. He bowed his head again. I understand. I will do everything in my power to ensure our ultimate triumph. The three Sith discussed the battle tactics and strategy. Krayt listened intently, absorbing the wisdom and knowledge. As the conversation came to a close, Ragnos and the Underlord turned to Krayt with one final message. Remember, the Chosen One is the key to everything. And with that, they vanished, leaving Krayt alone in the dark tomb. He took a deep breath. Gorging himself on the dark side aroma, he was ready for the coming battle, ready to ensure the survival of the Sith, and everything he had worked for. Darth Krayt opened his eyes and found himself on the field of battle. The stench of death and decay engulfed the air, and he could hear the screams of his fellow Sith as they battled hordes of undead and Rackles mustered by Carnasmer. So the ancient Sith had been of some use. As Krayt surveyed the battlefield, he sensed an even larger gaping hole in the Force. Another Sith Lord was wielding the source of the Nihilus-afflicted zombie legions, and then he saw him, a figure wielding a crimson blade, cutting through his allies with effortlessness. Malgus. Darth Malgus. Krayt felt a surge of fury. Malgus had been one of his greatest disciples, and he had hoped that he had never succeeded to Nihilus's rule, but now it was clear Malgus had been fully steeped in the worst of the darkness. Crate and Malgus engaged in a fierce duel, their lightsabers clashing and sparking against each other. Crate was a more formidable warrior, using a mixture of Terrace Kasi and Niktochi martial arts and lightsaber combat, but Malgus was even more skilled. Their movements were fluid and precise, each of them trying to gain the upper hand. Crate could feel the tide of the battle turning Malgus' way, and he knew he had to do something to turn that tide. In a burst of fury, Crate destroyed a nearby tree, diverting Malgus' attention for a mere moment. He seized the opportunity and used the force to push Malgus into a nearby mountain, causing him to bellow in defiance. "Your power will be your downfall," he said, "and I will not let you destroy the Sith. The Sith will live eternally." And with that, he crushed Malgus' neck, allowing no mercy for the being that he had once trained in the ways of the Force. As Crate made his way back to the Sith temple, his senses were heightened. Alert for any signs of danger, the battle still reigned around him. However, having killed Nihilus, there was one last thing he needed to do to ensure that Nihilus would ultimately fall to him: orbital bombardment. And then he sensed it, a presence of pure darkness, darkness beyond darkness, emanated from the figure of the Chosen One, Anakin Skywalker. The Chosen One was everything. As Ragnos and the Underlord had said, he knew that their plan was carefully calculated. There could be no mistakes this time. Crate moved towards him, his hand on his lightsaber, ready for battle. Anakin met him with a swift and powerful overhand strike, their lightsabers clashing in a vigorous and laborious and sparking against one another, continuously clashing. "You will not prevail, Crate," Anakin said, his voice cold and filled with anger. "You and your kind will be destroyed. The galaxy will be freed from your tyranny." Crate chuckled, his eyes gleaming with nuts. "You are naive, Chosen One. You do not understand the power of the dark side. You were born of a Jedi prophecy, a Jedi tenet. I am the Sith Ali. I am free of limits. I am a force that cannot be stopped, cannot be contained." Darth Crate's lightsaber quickly dispatched Anakin's. He laid both of his twin lightsabers to Anakin's throat. The Dark Chosen One fell to his knees. "Cannot be redeemed." The lightsabers continued to clash as Anakin had recovered his, but Crate could feel Anakin growing stronger with each passing moment. He was determined to win, to show the galaxy that he was invincible, and more importantly, Nihilus. "You will pay for this," Anakin said, struggling at his restraints. "The Nihilus will come in for me. He will defeat you." Crate merely laughed, his eyes filled with amusement, as he bound the Chosen One in chains, telekinetically manipulating him. "Let them come," he replied. "I am ready for the second stage of this battle. Nothing will stop me from achieving ultimate power. That is my intention the entire time. Once Nihilus is dead, you will learn true power."